When things rise up, and I'm fixing to talk about this, but you almost have to be willing to have some emotional maturity in that. You have to be willing to sit with some uncomfortable feelings if you really want different. You know, we come into this and I can give you lots of tricks and tips and lots of replacements, and if this happens, then what? But when I'm talking to you about if-then planning, notice that we're really looking at also in journaling, when you are slipping up at a certain time of day and we're trying to implement if-then planning, I'm really trying to get you to look at, why are you doing that? Why was it at 5 o'clock, really almost 6 every day, was this the time that I wanted to binge on something? It didn't almost matter if I was full, if I wasn't full, if I had this meal, because it was the time that stress walked in that door after work. And I really started to have to think. I had to come to terms with getting on with some emotional maturity of why I was doing that. Because you can almost find that you can replace some of these things that become addictions. It's a way of muting down reality, or even a void in your life. You can replace what you're doing with something else that can become just as toxic. You know, there are people that can become so obsessed about fasting, comes to mind, or they can become addicted to, say, colonics, enemas. Enemas are not habit forming. They don't cause your body to become needed on that, but you can mentally create a pattern in your life that you are addicted to that. But we'll try to keep it on the topic of food addiction. This is an interesting thing. I was trying to write down some thoughts I was having on this morning. This is a different chat than you've heard before. Karen. Hey, Karen. Who was making those celery wraps yesterday? I love it when y'all put your life in. It's just... Oh, Tim Deaver, this is a friend of mine. Right, Facebook. Doesn't he look like somebody I would be friends with? I met him one day. I was shopping in Whole Foods, and he was like, "Excuse me, you're Tanny." I'm like, I am. Anyway, he had seen me speak over in Greenville somewhere, and anyway, he's a great guy. For the longest time, that guy tried to go out with me. I'm like, Tim, first of all, you're 30, okay? And my grandson is the age of your children. And I ain't their mama, okay? And he was also too short for me. It's funny when you tell guys, you're like, I'm too tall for you, you know, and they're like, no, I love long legs. And I'm thinking, what I'm trying to say is that you're too short for me. I'm sorry, I get to choose again, okay? And I like to feel like a fairy dust pixie, and I can't do that if you're 5'3", okay? Here it is, Kate, I should have known. Kind of like pizza crust for your salad. Did you all... Come on, Kate. Beautiful. Oh, that's funny. Tim Deaver. He could be a good companion for my daughter, though. He's very, very, very cute, and he's very spunky. Looks very energetic. Anyway, what was I coming over here for? So I want to tell you about, let's just talk about this, shall we? Let's get this party started. Food addiction. I'm going to read you some thoughts that I was just making some thoughts. Okay, I know you're like, oh no. Okay, if you stop the suspected addiction, okay, let's just try to keep it to food, but you could roll this into anything else. Maybe you feel like you've overcome your food addictions, okay? So just think about that. If you stop doing the suspect addiction, the thing you think you might be, come on back for some more, for a week, cravings arise, okay? Uncomfortable feelings arise. It could be mentally and it could be physically. But if that happens on any level, you have a range, low to high, of addiction. Okay, this could be a lot of different things. You can run this on test on any thing that might be something you're addicted to, you know. It's assumed that people have at least 6 to 12 addictions like this in their life, okay? In society now. Drugs, food, smoking, alcohol, TV, internet, scrolling, porn, video games, socialization, chit-chat, gossip, fear-based watching and talking, overworking, shopping, thinking problems into reality that weren't even problems. Though I like to think about things. I don't know how many people I have had tell me, you think too much. But there's a difference in thinking and the fact that the world is doped down. Even if you present somebody with a question like this, what is it that lights you up inside? What are you excited about? What is going on in your life that you're creating in your life that you're so excited about? People are like, huh? Anyway, compliments, seeking compliments, that kind of thing, like validation outside of yourself, people pleasing for validation, criticism, judgment, all those things. The root cause of a lot of these addictions can be a fear of emptiness. Sit with the fact of turning off all media. It can be an uncomfortable feeling of emptiness. Or you're used to what my mother does this. Watch the news. Tell everybody about the news. Contemplate about the fear about the news. Roll that into a bigger fear ball about the news. What's going on? And then if this happens, this happens. And it is an addiction to fear-based mentality, fear-based media. Try not to do that and see if it doesn't feel empty if you do that. Or it could be something down to the fact of listening to music constantly. Constant distraction. I was talking to my mom. She was just, in the last year, she's been just so unhappy. I'm telling you that because that's what she says. And a lot of it is this. Her whole life, she had a gosh awful childhood, a very volatile marriage. I know, I lived in that, which is why it seemed real familiar when I recreated that by choosing that for my own marriage. And then after being divorced, choosing that many times in relationships because it felt familiar. But anyway, she lived through all that. teaching 35 years, hustle, bustle, go, go, go. And then she retired. And there was the sound of silence. Even if the TV was going, my mother constantly has the TV playing in her house 24 hours a day. See, I love silence. I'm disturbed by noise like that, that's outside noise that penetrates my thoughts. If I'm listening to something, it's intentional. Anyway, the sound of silence is uncomfortable. Because the root cause of addiction can be the fear of emptiness. It brings that up in yourself. You know what I mean? There's a lot of reasons people are addicted to food. Fear of emptiness, fear of being alone, fear of being in the quiet. Sit in a room for 20 minutes alone with nothing to really look at, no stimuli, and notice how uncomfortable it is. It's that feeling of emptiness. And try not to even let your thoughts be like going into this fantasy mode or all these. Just notice. Be in the noticing. This is a tool you can use. I'm fixing to get to that. But anyway, food addiction, binging, eating bad food, eating toxic food, eating chemical food, food that dopes you down, too much food, too much healthy food. You can dope yourself down with salad. You can become obsessive about food. The first few weeks into this, even the first few months, you'll notice how all those addictions, it's almost like you don't know what to do with yourself. Your thoughts are much different when you're not doped down by chemicals. And you start to notice things in your life that ain't working for you. Nothing's changed except you being in the noticing. Because you can, because you're not doped down, right? I mean, let's just say after dinner, you have committed yourself to not eat again. You're not physically hungry, but you're addicted to that pattern, okay? Or let's say you typically ate ice cream for years after dinner. You're addicted to that. You're physically and mentally addicted. And after dinner, you've made a promise to yourself you're not going to do it. But then that time arises. And in that little time is where self-mastery can come into play. Instead of getting up, oh, I have to plug you in and this is going to be noisy, so hold on. It's going to be uncomfortable, okay, because you're used to doing that thing. Or maybe your hubby is liking to have chips and beer after dinner. I don't know what he eats, okay, whatever. That ain't got nothing to do with you. You bring it here, baby. I mean, he's going to eat it whether you serve it to him or not. So you're sitting there, and this is normally when you partake in that too. Or you have an additional 7 to 800 calories of 7 to 8 banana ice cream. But you've decided you ain't doing that because that's not working for you. And you're in that moment, okay? This is the moment of mastery. Just sit there in that moment. Don't try to scroll. Don't try to dope it down. Don't try to... See, I've given you tools like, for example, a hot tea.